I was born to run, I was born to travel. It's another day alive, raising hell and slanging gravel.
All right, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of Is My General Lee Show Correct? And don't forget to check out part 1 where we go over the exterior front. Now in part 2, we're going to cover graphics, wheels, and paint. So buckle that seatbelt and let's get started. All right, so what you're seeing here obviously is the door, and you can see the 01. Now, from my understanding, my 01s are representative of a California era decal. I'm going to switch to the Georgia era decals. And once I do, we'll go over the differences on all those in that video. But just know that my decals for the era of car I'm building are not correct. My graphics aren't correct. But something else I do have correct, you'll notice the door handle, and underneath of it, the door lock. A lot of times at car shows, because I go in and out the windows on mine, you all have seen the video where I show you how to properly enter and exit the General Lee. I just don't use the doors on this car. I think it's silly. But anyway, a lot of people, because of that, think that on the show, they quote, remember it not having door handles, and that's why they went in and out. But that wasn't the case. In the script, it was a race car, so therefore you welded the door shut on a racing car. But the door handles and door lock mechanism there was always present. The only thing they did do, which I covered in the other video on how to properly enter and exit the General Lee, is they did remove the door lock, the tab you pull up and down. They did remove that so the actors didn't get cut sliding in and out of the car. So once I do get a new decal set to make my car more consistent, because when I bought these decals from Jake's General Store back in 2003, I didn't know of anybody who made Georgia era graphics back then.
Even now, there's several people that offer the Georgia era graphics, but I haven't got to test them for accuracy. Eventually I'll do that and I'll do a video on that, and you can rest assured mine will be extremely accurate once it gets to that point. But as far as I know, Jake's General Store, I mean, he still offers these. I actually got to speak with him online the other day, and he actually took the measurements for these off of a Lake California car, and even the roof, where they had the flag painted on. He even actually took the measurements from the flag from a jump car from a Lake California era car. So if you want accurate Lake California era graphics for your Lake California era General Lee build, then hey, go check out Jake's General Store, and the graphics will look exactly like what you see on my car. So the flag, the lettering, um, the 01s, those will all look exactly like what I've got on my car, because that's what I've got. So I put a link in the description below. You can check those out, and that way those of you who are building a Lake California era car can get a set of accurate General Lee graphics. Again, I'll do a video in the future where we compare the eras and the graphics from each era and all that stuff, and sometimes even look at specific cars and notice some of the quirky differences and inconsistencies on them. But in the meantime, just know that mine are correct for a Lake California era car, which is not what I'm trying to build. So in this instance, my decals or graphics, I mean, are not show correct for a Georgia era car, but they will be. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to do decals or have them painted on. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'll know for sure once the time comes. Once I have the resources to go through all that, I'll do that, and I'll cover all that here on the channel as well. That way, you guys can come along for the ride, so to speak, and see what's going on. And I'll kind of let you know why I'm making the decisions I'm making and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And should be fun. Should be fun. So in this sense, my graphics are not show correct.
Now, what you're seeing here is obviously the roof graphics. These also are not Georgia era graphics because, again, like I said on the 01s when we covered that, these also weren't available, the Georgia era decals, when I ended up getting the graphics in 2003 for mine. They only had the California era stuff. So the flag will be like a darker navy blue instead of that sapphire blue. The lettering will be slightly different in look, and it'll also be a little bit different in the blue and how thick the white is and things like that. So anyway, I'll do a video on that, and we'll get into the differences of the different era decals. I'll put on the screen what each era looked like and all that once I get to that video. I'm not going to do it in this one. But I just wanted you to know that that is also, just like my 01s, not show correct for a Georgia era car. Now, these were used on California cars, so they're correct for that era, but again, that's not the era I'm going to build, so I will swap these out eventually and redo them to where it matches the Georgia era graphics. So in this case, mine is not show correct. So let's move on to the next one. Now, what I'm showing you here is two elements of the car.
The first is the CB antenna. Now, I will say mine is correct for a Georgia era car, but we'll get more into that in part 3 of this is my generally show correct series.
Also, these cross flags. Now, from my understanding, John Holland, probably arguably the greatest Dukes of Hazzard historian around. And
He actually says these only appeared on 5 of the cars.
And these were obviously exclusive to the Georgia era. And once it became a hit, this was just something they didn't want to have to keep replicating. They just didn't have the time to do it because they had to keep making these cars and make them in a hurry. So they just left this off, but I love it because it's a key feature of the early Georgia era cars. So if you're building an early Georgia car,
Then you really need to get familiar with the work of John Holland. He's written a book, The Roads Back to Early Hazzard, that chronicles a lot of the information on these early Georgia cars. So you're definitely going to want to pick that up for sure. And also remember that if you're going to build one of these Georgia era cars,
then you'll want to get these cross flag decals. Now mine technically aren't correct. There are some issues with the white border. Mine has a white border all the way around the Confederate flag. That wasn't the case when you do the close-ups. It looks like it was sloppily cut out from something and put on the car, so some of the border is missing. So depending on how show correct you want to be, mine is not ultra show correct. But if they had not been inconsistent and they took their time and did it right, this is how it would have looked on the series from my understanding. So I'm going to keep that even when I re-decal the car. I'm gonna include that and keep that on there. And I haven't decided whether I'm gonna do the border the way it was on the series and make it that accurate, or just do this and keep it how it is on here.
but once I do, you all be the first to know. I'll be posting all about it on here. So doing videos and also there's another element I want you to take notice of here too. So at the top of the flagpole on mine, it just ends like the decal stops. It's just flat and squared off. On the ones on the show, however, like you can see in this photo, there's little bulbs at the top. There's little circles. So I'll actually replicate that as well. As far as this goes, my car is partially correct. So it's got the correct decal, but it's got the one with a full white border. So on this count, my General Lee is partially show correct.
All right. Something else I wanted to mention is the space from about here along the bottom, or the rocker moldings, or the rocker panels they call it, from here all the way to the back to that tire over there. Only one General Lee showed the rocker molding that was chrome or stainless, and that was on Lee 1, which is actually the third General Lee Warner Brothers purchased, but was the first one to get labeled by a label maker machine when they were lined up together. So Lee 3, which is my favorite General Lee of all time, is Lee 3. Every element that I think is the best on every General Lee all appeared simultaneously on that car. So that's my favorite one. That was obviously the Georgia era. That was the first one ever made into a General Lee. But Lee 1, which has a storied history and a storied past, it was the only one that had the chrome rocker molding. If you remember at the opening credits where they take the General Lee and jump it over Roscoe's cop car, at the opening credits, at the end of the opening credits of every episode, that General Lee at the chrome rocker molding is the one that does that jump. So if you want to build a Lee 1 replica in the Georgia era, you need to get that stainless or chrome rocker molding. But if you're not building a Lee 1 replica, then you probably want to leave it off. Or if you're one of those guys that, hey, I'm gonna put every element that I like on my General Lee, and you don't care about show accuracy, then hey, I say go for it, because I do think it looks good. I do think it looks good on there. I'm just not going to do it on mine because I'm I'm weird, man. You can tell from my video, I'm weird. I want it. There's certain things I'm really strict about, like somebody who wants crooked decals, and there's other things I'm willing to just go full resto mod on and not even worry about it. So, so you know, everybody can build them however they want. And there's all kinds of awesome ways to build really, really sweet General Lees. So, anyway, just want to let you know that about that rocker molding. So, on to the next element. Now, what I'm showing you here, mine is show correct on this charge. So you can see this area right in here. This is the sail panel. It's where the roof meets the quarter panel. And there's actually a cursive Charger logo from the factory, from Dodge, that would go there. Mine have been removed. And that's actually what they did to the cars on the show. They removed all of those Charger emblems from the car on the sail panels. Now, if you had a Charger Special Edition, you would have an SE badge there from the factory. But again, all those were removed on the General Lees. So in this sense, mine is show correct, and I'll keep that once I have it repainted and get the new decals on it and all that stuff. I'll keep that element show correct. On to the next one. Now, I'm showing you the whole car here. Just know that my car is supposedly, by the people who painted it, told us it's the factory Mopar color, Hemi orange from 1969. So if a Charger came orange from the factory in 1969, I was told by the painters, whether they're right or wrong, that this is the color they used. Now, there's a little bit more red in this.
And 1975 Corvette Flame Red, which actually shows up as orange, believe it or not, even though the word red is in the name. Hemi orange is more red and has more red in it than 1975 Corvette Flame Red. From my understanding, the three earlier cars, Lee 1, 2, and 3, were painted Hemi orange in California and then shipped to Georgia for the initial filming of the first 5 episodes of the Dukes of Hazzard. Now, it was too red on camera, so they ended up painting those cars eventually all 1975 Corvette Flame Red. So that's actually what I'm going to go with on mine when I'm actually able to get it repainted. I think it looks the best and looks the most accurate according to a Georgia era car build. So just want to keep that in mind.
So there's a huge controversy over what the actual color is. John Schneider, or Bo Duke, did a video saying nobody knows. The painters told him that, hey, we just mixed whatever oranges we had, so nobody knows the exact color. They just mixed and matched paints. And then Travis Bell did a video on VinWiki, and I'm going to link all these videos I'm talking to, the one with John Schneider and the one from Travis Bell from VinWiki on the correct color. I'm going to link these in the description below so you can check those out and do the research for yourself. He said that he paint scanned a trunk lid from one of the early Georgia cars that had been untouched, not been in the lot, and it paint scanned and came back as a color known as TNT Express. And that's the actual color of the early General Lees. But there was also a video by a guy named Johnny Pence. Excellent video, and I don't think it gets enough views on this topic, but he talks about paint scans and how the color that's underneath of the paint affects the final color and the outcome, and that made a lot of sense to me. So he says that you could take 1975 Corvette Flame Red, take 5 '69 Chargers, each one a different color. One's green, one's red, one's yellow, one's blue, one's white. Because on the show, they didn't sand them down to primer and then paint over them. They just painted over the existing color, whether it was gold or blue or green or whatever. So you could take the exact batch of 1975 Corvette Flame Red, paint every one of those cars, and when you paint scanned them, each one would be a different paint code color. Even though they were all painted the exact same color, it would scan as a different color because of the way the paint scan works based on the color it was underneath. Now that made a lot of sense to me. So what color is it exactly? I'm just going to say it, but I think it's really close to the 1975 Corvette Flame Red from my research. So that's the color I'm going to redo on mine. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of people, even the experts, have trouble identifying them when they're next to each other at car shows. One's Flame Red, one's TNT Express, one's this, one's that. but you can tell they're different. You can see a bunch of different shades of orange. I mean, I think they used Hugger orange, Hemi orange, vitamin C orange. They used a lot of different oranges through the course of the show. But since I'm replicating the early Georgia cars, that's why I'm wanting to do the 1975 Corvette Flame Red, because to me that looks the best and the most accurate to my liking. So, all right. So now I want to draw your attention to this area here, from this stainless trim along this route here to here, all the way up to this stainless trim. There's stainless trim I'm missing there because from the factory, where my car is not a factory vinyl top car, I don't have that trim. And what it did was, where the vinyl top and the quarter panel met, the seam where the vinyl top ended and the paint started was covered up with stainless trim, 2 pieces on each side. And it's the vinyl top molding or trim. I do need to buy that because some of the earlier cars, the Georgia cars I liked, were vinyl top cars, and they did the sheet metal top and of course did the graphics on the roof, but they kept that vinyl top trip on, and I think it looks better. Some people can't stand it. Some people are, you know, whatever. There's different opinions on it, but I love it. And since that was an element of the early Georgia cars that I absolutely loved, I'm going to replicate that on mine eventually. And once I do, I'll obviously have some material on that and show you what it looks like after it's on there. But I think they look way better with it on there. And that's one element that I want that'll be show correct for a Georgia era car. Now it's also show correct to not have it on there. So on this, you can just kind of go with your heart and it be show correct either way. But my heart says put it on. So I'm going to put it on the car. So anyway, on to the next element. The next element here, of course, is the General Lee wheels. Now these are not a factory wheel. These are an aftermarket wheel. Carroll Shelby made a version. American Racing made them. That's why it's got these Carroll Shelby center caps. That's one of the elements I wanted to talk to you guys about. So a lot of the cars, most of them didn't even have center caps. Some of the early ones did, and they had this Carroll Shelby wheels decal on them. So mine is correct for the Georgia era cars that had center caps. And that's what I'm using here. That's what I'm showing you. And you can also tell mine are the older wheels, because if you can see this lip right here, see how this lip sticks out right here at the top? If it was smooth and flush, that means it's a reissue wheel from American Racing in the 2000s. They brought these out and called them the special editions. And you can see those online for sale as well. But you can tell it's the early ones from the 70s if it has that lip on it. And those are the original ones. And that's what I like. So
Now, another element I want to draw your attention to is the tires. Now, notice they're solid black on the sidewall here. All the General Lees on the show had black sidewalls. Any white lettering was turned to the inside. So you want to make sure, if you want your car to be show accurate, you turn those white letters to the inside. Now, the movie cars, they had them showing on the outside, and I'll be honest with you, I think it's weird to me to see them on General Lees. I think they look good on a lot of vintage cars, but as a General Lee, since it just wasn't that way on the show, it's a little odd to me. But hey, if you want to do that on yours. I think it looks great on other cars, such as say these Cobras. And actually, check out Hillbank Motorsports in Florida. They got incredible cars like this Cobra you're seeing here. And on these cars, I absolutely love the Goodyear logo and all that stuff on the sidewall of these tires. I think it looks incredible. But for me and the General Lee, I'm going to go with the white lettering on the inside. I just think it looks odd since you never saw it that way on the show ever. But you know, it does look good. Like as you can see here in these pictures, my buddy Richard Kruger's car. So anyway, just want to give you a heads up on that element.
anyway, in that sense, my wheels are correct. All right, another element is these Wheelwell openings right here. Some of the General Lees had the chrome molding here. So I have that for mine, but I took it off when it got painted, and I'm not going to put it back on. That way I can replicate the early Georgia cars more accurately. Now, some of the early California cars had them, and it's correct to leave them on or leave them off, but for the cars I'm going to replicate, I'm not going to have that on there. So anyway, that's something else. That's another element to notice.
And as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in and checking out what we got going on here at the channel. And I really hope this is helping you guys see the differences in all the General Lees and all the different ways to build them, and why you might run into different General Lees that look totally different, but could also still be show correct. So I really hope this is helping, and hope you also see the direction I'm ultimately headed with the car. Again, I'll have a video on the resto mod things I want to do in the future. But until then, check out these other videos that we got going on here. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that notification bell. That way, when part 3, where I cover the exterior rear of the car, when that video drops, you'll be notified instantly and won't miss it. So until next time, keep it between the ditches.